And the faster you realize it, and the faster you put on that thinking cap, and the faster you start looking out for solutions, you're in it for a game-changing lifestyle that will inspire yourself to go out there and do more, and also inspire people around you. And I think that is worth living for, and that is happiness.
My name is Chris Elisha, your host. Real-life superheroes have abilities to do things which are out of the ordinary. But they don't wear capes. They might look just like you and me. We live among superheroes. We often walk right by them without knowing because we're so busy with our schedules. I believe you are the company you keep. And in this podcast, we put you in the company of superheroes, bringing them on board and having meaningful conversations to reveal the tips, the hacks, the biohacks, which they use to hit new heights of well-being, longevity, and success. Welcome to the Zuperhuman Podcast. My guest today is a former high-level competition strongman, commercial long-haul pilot, and, most pertinently, a national board-certified functional medicine health coach. He is the founder of the Orca Wellness concept, which encompasses healthy food restaurants, one of which is only a few minutes' walk from us here in central Hong Kong, as well as lifestyle and wellness coaching and products. He is also the co-founder for Nourish and Go, an upcoming, trendy, AI-driven concept for healthy food vending machines. This man does it all, while living his life at 600 miles per hour and 35,000 feet with a moderate tailwind. A big welcome to the one and only Nobin John.
Thank you, Chris. Wow, what an introduction. It's going to be very hard to live up to that.
Well, we'll see. Tell me, let's get straight into it. You are one of the most motivated and driven people I have ever met. How did this start?
Wow, that is really going to take me back in the memory lanes. But just like most of us who are committed and driven in this space, it all started with a personal journey. And there were multiple stages to it. And the beauty about every stage was I thought I knew it all, but at every tight corner, if I may say, I found myself in a situation where I was empowered to actually learn more. Where did it all start? I grew up as an obese kid. I weighed over 120 kgs, which was the last time I weighed myself, and I knew I grew much bigger, but I never bothered to stand on a scale. The only good part to that was I was confident in my skin, although I had its own environmental challenges that came along with being the fat kid in town. And what didn't add to that, or which didn't do any good, was the fact that I carried big dreams. It's just to fly big jets, go out there and change the world. And over time, as I grew up, I kind of realized that I was literally entering into stages of life where I'm be sitting on my dreams because of the fat kid that I was. So that for me was the start. And then it was my journey of getting myself out of that or getting myself unstuck from that state or situation. Now, that journey was not easy because, of course, when you travel a journey of transformation, that I would say, there's always a marketed way and there's always the right way of doing things. And I, just like anybody at an early stage, not knowing, were in the hands of people who were just talking about the most marketed things and went down so many wrong roads and found myself in really tight corners, which today embarrasses me, which today empowers me, and which today is my biggest drive and motivator, because every time I was there, I looked for the light. And I always told myself, if I see this light in this corner, and I was seeking very hard for it, that I will ensure that somewhere down the road, I would ensure that nobody is stuck here. Or if anybody is, such as life, I will work towards I would dedicate a part of my life towards being the solution on that street, on that tight corner, to put them back on the right way.
What led you down so many incorrect paths? Was it the influence of people around you, outside of you? Or was it perhaps something within you that was reaching, being too hasty to try and believe in solutions that really weren't sustainable?
Now, it's a very interesting question. To be honest, at that point of time, I knew my why. I knew my why I was going down this road of transformation. And I think that's a big step, which today even science talks about. You need to know your why and your purpose. And luckily, unfortunately enough, I was in an environment I knew my why. I had the drive. Then I was like a sponge. And all I wanted to do was absorb the information that is out there. Problem, the information that is out there. So what's in today's world, what's more seen or what's more heard with your eyes closed is, of course, what's most marketed. And what's normally most marketed and funded, hence the noise, is not always the right way. It is the shorter path towards achieving a goal with a price tagged to it that is not sustainable. So I would say, answering your question, this is where I would, be very confident to say that. I would be confident to say that it was not me. It was just everything that was out there that was driving me to different roads that, had all the blings and highlights saying, hey, come here. This will get you faster to your goal because you have a drive and we see it. Come on here. Pop in here. And let's be honest about it. From the time you wake up, especially in today's world, and I'm talking about 20 years back, that kind of gives you my age, but
yeah,
in a world that we get up today, how many times, if you were to just ask yourself honestly, do you make decisions in a day that were kind of already influenced or pitched into your head right from the time you woke up, or even maybe the previous night when you were on your feed or you were watching something on television? So the question always that I ask is, are you in control? Or do you feel like yourself that you are in control, but you're not? So again, to your question, I would say it was always the noise. And the day I was able to, and that came with education, that came with going out and seeking and understanding the fact that what is always out there and what's advertised is not the right way. There are less trendy, but real life solutions, which is not easy, but the most sustainable bang for the buck. That is what chasing for or endorsing or bringing in as a part of your lifestyle. There is a trend and there is a lifestyle. Now, trend is something that makes you look good momentarily. A lifestyle is something that makes you look good even now, knowing the fact that 20 years down the road, you are going to be even better than what you're sitting at today.
Let's go back to the why.
Okay.
Some people in today's society are very successful because they're trying to prove a point to people outside of them, around them. And that can, even employers sometimes look for people with that type of dysfunction, where it's like, if I dangle a huge salary or a glamorous lifestyle in front of someone, the carrot, as it were, that's what will motivate them. You mentioned growing up and perhaps feeling a bit of stigma because of your weight. Was it always a lifestyle? Was the why always a healthy why? Or did it originate from wanting to prove people wrong? And is that necessarily an unhealthy thing?
So personally, for my why, I would say it was not to prove people wrong. That would not be number one on my list. For me, number one on my list, maybe at that time, I don't know for what reason, was just a dream that I had. And, maybe it was meant to be. All right. Maybe it was meant to be that I travel that uncharted territories, that I could be here in this present moment to be able to contribute. And that's life. Some people have a calling for it. Some people travel that road and then choose to make a contribution later to the society to help people finding themselves in that corner. Because honestly, everybody reaches that corner or that state or that situation where you just need help. Now, for me, the why was primarily my dreams. And I knew the only way I could do this is take some actions to get myself out. Of course. And then it's about the beauty of life. You go down that road, you make mistakes. I don't know, was it the movies that I was watching at that time? Or was it the people that I was surrounding? Or was it the crap that was coming through my phone? And I was always attracted to like the Rocky. I was attracted to really motivational stuff. Movies, if I can say.
Arnie,
yeah. I mean, how these people who were never to make it. For example, there was an amazing documentary. If anyone's really looking for life motivation, I say, screw all this podcast. Just go and watch Arnie's movie. Netflix documentary. You are not, if you were to do something big in life, which I think is everybody's birthright. You have to see the shits. You have to find yourself in a tight corner. And every time you find yourself in a tight corner, my biggest advice to people out there today is smile. Because you are there for a bigger cause that you are placed on this planet for. And the faster you realize it, and the faster you put on that thinking cap, and the faster you start looking out for solutions, you're in it for a game-changing lifestyle that will inspire yourself to go out there and do more, and also inspire people around you. And I think that is worth living for. And that is happiness.
Talking about Arnie, there was a stage where you almost looked like Arnie. You were absolutely jacked. But you've also alluded in previous episodes when you've been hosting that you weren't entirely happy. Can you tell us a little bit about that overcompensation and the dynamics that occurred and where your mentality was at that time?
I love the word overcompensation. All right. The whole thing was I went a little overboard with it. For example, of course, my goal was to come out of that state or the situation of obesity to something better that I could start chasing my dreams. And once I started chasing my dreams, of course, I looked at myself as standing on a platform where I could start maybe, like I told myself a long time back that I need to be able to inspire people. And for me, the biggest inspiration at that point of time, and as I grew up also, as I've already mentioned names, right? It was Arnold Schwarzenegger. It was people like Rocky. Who was the guy who played Rocky? Sylvester Stallone. Yeah. These are the people who kind of motivated me. And I wanted to be that kind of a source of motivation to my community. Because I don't think, of course, they are the prime movers, but also you need smaller movers in your community, and you can actually touch, feel, talk, and say, hey, I know this guy. And that is sometimes even more a bigger driver than watching Arnie. Because, hey, you always have an excuse like, he's got the money, all right? The production pays for this, okay? But this is a guy who lives next door. It's more relatable. So I wanted to be that next door boy who can help somebody to chase dreams, basically. And that's all I wanted to do. My goal was like, I will help people on that boat where they find themselves fat or uncomfortable in their skin. And along with that comes a lot of medical complications. Needless to say, I had breathing issues as a kid. I was subject to autoimmune conditions. And when it hit bad. And as a kid, you don't know much. As I grew up, I kind of knew that this is going to be my biggest roadblockers to my dreams. And I think everybody in this world, if you're alive, have dreams. Sometimes it's always buried. And sometimes our lifestyle is just buried even more. But life is worth living and chasing your dreams.
Today, you're a certified functional health coach. You are a specialist in diet and nutrition. Can you speak to us about how your interest and passion in diet and nutrition evolved, where it started? Was it always just lifting weights? When did the diet and nutrition part come in? And how has your mentality evolved around that subject?
It's a great question, and it's a very debatable and controversial topic to talk about. First of all, I don't consider myself as an expert. I consider myself as a biohacker, or as a very let's bin all this complicated words. I'm just somebody who's curious, and of course, in the books of medicine or holistic medicine or functional medicine, as I love to say, and what I think is modern medicine, we call food as medicine, not trendy.
No.
Because let's put it this way. My honest question to you, when do you have medicines?
When you're ill?
When you're ill. Food is not something that you have when you're ill, right? I look at it as a magic pill. For me, and this was a part of my whole journey of discovery, right? Because when I was at that phase where I was fighting obesity to be somebody fit, and then to a stage of being somebody fitter, it was a very restrictive diet, right? And living that life for almost 15 plus years, lifting weights, stressed my body, my nervous system, my immune system, my detoxification pathways, and most importantly, my gut, to a point where I was subject to a plethora of symptoms and disease states that I had to go and find answers to. And this all came from, again, something that was very well advertised as, hey, healthy is this. This is diet. This is nutrition, said from some of the experts. What was I doing? I was being the good boy, the sponge, doing it so that I can optimize living. So when it comes to diet and nutrition, my biggest, if this is the biggest takeaway that somebody can walk away from this podcast is there is no perfect diet. There is no perfect nutrition. Let's define a diet. Okay. And I love to do this because I think diet is very different from a diet style. A diet is something that you bring about to stress your body or stress your body and the physiology around it to achieve peak performances. But a diet style is something that you can fall back on for the rest of your life or the rest of your day. What are diets? Diets, of course, keto diet. That's a diet. Is it a diet style? Hell no. For example, why do I say that? I always like to ask myself, why do I say this? And that's where, I think it's a game changer. Because you got to ask yourself, when somebody tells you, eat avocados, you got to ask the person, why? What is in it for me? Does that actually match to my goals? So again, just diving back, I always ask myself, why? Why don't I think about keto as a diet style? And I think I got to be honest about it because, again, otherwise I'm just going to be somebody who tells hey, no to keto diet. Because for me, with the background that I have and the learnings that I have, I know it's a therapeutic diet. It is a magic pill again. And that is, keto diet is actually medicine to even reverse and manage states such as cancer, chronic disease states. And these are done under the supervisions of some of the highest qualified doctors that you get to work with in that space. How can you endorse that diet in your whole lifespan and look at optimizing peak performance? It will get you to some tight corners. And if you're not working with a professional, you would fall off those tight corners or find yourself in a situation where you might need help. And that is living. You just need to know that is around the corner. So getting back to the question on I think I went a little off tangent there, but what I'm trying to say is keto diet, paleo diet. What are the other diets that I can think of? These are the most talked about in Hong Kong. Atkins diet, carnivore diet, vegan diet style.
Yeah.
I'm going to stay away from the vegan diet style. I'm not going to, because that is more like I think that qualifies maybe as a diet style and that's a choice. But the diets are restrictive. Diet styles are never restrictive. I like people to endorse, or from the learnings that I have and on my own life journey, all I can tell people is get into a framework of diet style. It is trendy, and it's a trendy diet style or a lifestyle in which you're endorsing a lot of food, variety. And something I'm very passionate about, when I talk about diet and nutrition is let's understand, what is food? We talked about food as medicine, but that's when you find yourself in a disease state. Absolutely, yes. But why is food a magic pill? Why are we eating? Chris, why are we eating?
To sustain our bodies, give us energy.
Okay. We just go that road of energy. Your eating or your diet or your choices influence energy states. If you look at yourself as somebody who gets up in the morning, has those things to do, which leads you to one step closer to the dreams that you want to chase, you need energy, isn't it?
Yes.
Now, just like your car, if you want this car to go with you all the way to that end point, to that checkered flag, which is your dream, you need to fuel this correctly. Quality food, real food, provides cleaner energy. The more processed food that you put into yourself is bad energy.
Yeah.
Not that I say that, hey, stop by, pit stop, grab a sandwich or grab a cookie, it's okay. But when you're on that road again, which is a lifestyle road to your dream destination or to that checkered flag, you need a diet style to follow or fall back on. And this is where I say variety and diversity are something that you really got to have fun with when it comes to food and nutrition. It is still a space that is a lot of research is going on. But one thing that is proven is in the space of diet and nutrition, eat more plants. You can choose to have meat or poultry in your diet styles. If you do so, it'd be better if you make conscious choices. When I say conscious choices, if it's grass-fed, could be organic, because there's a lot of crap that gets injected into this meat. And also, needless to say, by making these right choices in meat, you're actually making this planet a better planet so that you can hand it over to the next generation, which I think is our responsibility as living individuals today. Because many times we're just living in it for ourselves. And that's how self-centered we have become. And I don't blame anybody for it. But yeah, we're just chasing our own dreams. But it's a huge responsibility, I think, for us to pass this planet on to the next generation in a much cleaner fashion. And one way you could do so in a really good way is by bringing in a lot of plants into your diet style. I'm not saying plant-based, but I'm just saying a variety of plant-based real food ingredients, having meat if you choose to. And if you do that, make conscious choices if you can. Else, don't worry about it. But as long as you focus on the majority of bringing in diversity and variety of real foods, in technical terms, what you're actually doing is you're creating a microbiome, which I'm really passionate about, the gut health aspect of things.
Yeah, and this is where I wanted to take it. So you've said on numerous occasions with numerous guests that you believe that gut health is the foundation of everything. It all starts with gut health. So it's not mental health, it's not physical health. If the gut is correct, the rest kind of comes from there. That might be slightly contentious to some people.
Yeah.
Can you expand on that?
That's a beautiful topic. Let's look at it two ways. One is the energy aspect you mentioned. The second one is today's biggest concern, which is mental health and well-being. Okay? Mental health and well-being is another roadblocker to you chasing dreams. And energy is something that you need. As mentioned, keep it real, keep it diverse, bring in a lot of variety. Choose meat if you choose to. That is good source of energy. But gut, why is this so important? Your gut is like the window to anything that enters into your body or that you put into your body to create this energy, good or bad. Now, if you just look at it like the gateway for energy to enter into your body, we need to ensure that whatever we put into our body through this window, and it's a big, good, healthy window so that, you know, the good things that we put in actually make it through. Simplifying all this, when you eat, what you're eating, nutrition, or when you eat food, it's packed with nutrients. What are the nutrients? From a macro level, you have carbohydrates, fats, and you have proteins, just to highlight the big ones, and also fiber. From a micro level, you have a lot of phytonutrients or chemicals, which are beneficial for you, which most of it comes from the plant-based family. And they are actually cellular fuel. When you ingest them, when you chew through them, or when you put them, or when you subject them into that gut or the window, what is happening here is that you need to ensure that these macro or micronutrients in its natural state cannot be absorbed by your cells. Why am I talking about cells? Because cells are your energy generators. Without cells, you cannot generate the energy that you want to keep you going. And that also brings about an exciting topic of anti-aging, which we'll talk about later, which is nothing but energy or cellular management. We'll park that for now. So why is gut so important? From an energy standpoint, for your cells to produce energy, they need some bioavailable forms of these micro and macronutrients. And to break the food down that you eat into those bioavailable forms, or the forms in which the cells can, say, bring it on. All right, give me that fuel so that I can give you the energy to go out there and do what you need to do today and be happy about it. Bring in that fuel. You need to have a healthy gut. A very healthy gut is what I go for. And I'm not asking everybody to go for it, but it's worth living for sure. But always endorsing a lifestyle where you can have a healthy gut in order to make sure that what you're investing on, which is food, which you think is your primal source of energy. Why do we need energy to go out there and get the things done? And you have to pay money for it, mind you. And sometimes you pay quality money for quality food. Come on. How are you going to ensure this goes into your cell and gives you the energy that you wanted? The only way is in ensuring that window frame work is amazing. And it's inviting. And it can break down all that food nutrients in your diet or your diet styles to bioavailable forms for your cell to absorb to create energy. Again, why? It makes you look better. It makes you feel better. And when you look, feel, and think better, you are a dream chaser. And you go out there and get it done. In simple terms.
The energy's good.
Yeah, Nike, just do it.
Let me segue into a different subject.
All right.
I'd like to talk about something which is close to your
Chris,
heart.
also I'm just going to pause you on there.
Yeah.
Right? Because I remember I talked about, I do have a strong memory, so that's a curse. About gut and the brain, right? I talked about the second aspect to why I talk about gut and why I'm so passionate about it is, and why I think it's so important is from the brain perspective, which is kind of plaguing us today. And I think the prime reason it's plaguing us is because it's most talked about topic. And for some reason, when something is more talked about, you kind of find ways in which you could identify yourself, or you kind of investigate. You kind of find, okay, yeah, that seems like me. Maybe I'm in that state. Okay, that's all right. But think about it from another perspective. 80 to 90% of your neurotransmitters or neuromodulators, such as even dopamine, are generated in your gut. Or they lay the foundation for the generation of these neurotransmitters or neuromodulators. States such as anxiety, depressions are nothing but imbalances in chemicals in your brains or the wrong neurons firing. The only magic to making them live what I think is the cool chemistry of life, which in itself is abbreviated as cool, the chemistry of life, of our lives, is ensuring that you eat. First of all, you lay a foundation for a healthy gut so that you can break down and absorb the nutrients. And then those nutrients are supplied in the most bioavailable form to your brains as neurotransmitters and neurochemicals, neuromodulators, which is primarily 70 to 80%, and it's a solid research that shows this nowadays, is made in your gut. So how can we in this world today target our brains directly without addressing the gut? Mind you, I only say 70%. 30% is still up there. But if you're a businessman, or if you've just done maths, where do you think you need to put your energies into to get yourself out, or never even subject to those symptoms that can identify yourself more closer to that spectrum of states that are mentally challenging? And I think that needs to be addressed, because these are all symptoms. Mind you, anxiety, depression, they're all symptoms. They're not even, I don't even call them as disease states. There is, for me, in my list of hierarchy, there is chronic diseases, then there are disease states, there are symptoms. These are just symptoms, if anything, that can be absolutely managed. And I think I've already given you one direction. Of course, you can supplement the diet style, which is the game changer, with hacks that can be supplement oriented, that can be in the dimension of sleep, that can be in the dimension of doing activities that actually generate or 2 times or 2x's or 5x's the production from the cells or from your gut, to make these influences in both your energy states and also your brain states.
I'd like to move on to the subject of sleep.
Okay.
Different cultures approach sleep in different ways. Different people approach sleep in different ways. I break it up into 2 sets of 3 hours or so. You've got people in South America who take siestas or naps before evening, and then they go out until all night long. How do you approach sleep? Is it a one-size-fits-all approach? And how do you get the most out of your rest and recharging?
Well, for me, I think even before food, I place sleep in my life. And I've not reached this conclusion, or I've not reached this choice. It's not a conclusion, it's a choice. Yes, there is science that backs it, but there's also things that this is the beauty of it. I always look at life as an opportunity to play around. You engage with an objective to say, I'm always going to be in a position where I can actually rearrange my life. When I'm even playing around with the good things, such as healthy foods. Not every food is healthy for you. And not overdoing healthy food is also bad for you. So you need to know the fine boundaries. So coming back to the sleep topic. So why do I the question is, let's answer this first. Why do I put sleep as number 1 priority? Is because that is repair, that is regeneration, and that is restoration. Again, my question to every individual always these days doesn't start with, okay, what are the symptoms? Nah, mate. My question always to individuals today, and even to myself, so many times, even today, I find myself in tight corners, falling back to those addictions, falling back to those states where I am committed, or, where I almost have made, or, falling back to my old, comfort zones or wrong choices, if I would say. I always ask myself, why are we doing this? So if we were to talk on this topic of sleep, I'm just going to put this question back to you, which kind of is what I do with my clients too. And as a coach, I think this is the beauty of it. It becomes like a co-created, and because there is no one size that fits all.
Okay.
People live lives where sleep cannot be the priority. People are in a phase of life where sleep could not be a priority. It can be trying to target sleep at that point of time can be more a stressor than anything. I mean, I've seen people wear this Oura ring. It's a ring. It's an Oura ring. Yeah, that's a great product, but people get sucked into it, and it turns out to be a more stressor than an aid, because then you're always looking at it to see if you managed to sleep. Why don't we just go back to basics? I would always say that it will be your own journey to find out what priority sleep has in your life at that stage of life. But when you have the opportunity, you got to always dial into getting quality sleep more than quantity sleep. That's my approach. Because let's be honest about it. I live a crazy busy Asian lifestyle. And as much as I love my sleep, and it's right on top, I'm always hacking into ways that I can sleep with a higher quality than quantity. And also, I do work in shifts because of my full-time gigs. So, like I said, I don't worry about it, but when I can, it's number one priority. And when I can, I focus on quality. Then the question rolls on to like, maybe, how can you achieve quality?
Yeah, that's it. I mean, some people try to go to sleep, but they might lie there for hours, not able to do so. Are there any hacks for how you can get there faster?
Yeah. Turn out the temperature. Put on a comfortable blanket, get a warm shower. This is all bullshit. I'm sorry, but, again, these are the noises that's out there. People talk about sleep quality, which is a great header. And I think I'm sorry, I respect that header. But, the items that are in there, the order has to change. That's all I mentioned. And some of the areas that is least talked about, which is right at the bottom, I like to bring it on top. Because as an engineer, even when scientists talk to me, or even when it's preached to me, or when I read it, I always ask myself the question, why? It's just an engineering thing. And I always try to reverse engineer if I say, okay, that's where I want to reach. But let's just backtrack this. Why is this happening? Why? So answering your question, which is how can we dial into that quality sleep? Because people are struggling with quality. The easiest ways. My first question to always people who tell me this is like, how do you start your day? Because that is where the chemistry of your day begins. There's a lot of repair, regeneration, and restoration that happen through the night. When you wake up, I'm going to go in a little bit of science here, but I'm going to try to keep it simple. Your cortisol levels are very high. And how you achieve good sleep is about how you manage your cortisol levels throughout your day. But in order for your cortisol levels to have the perfect rhythm, which could put you to or help you achieve quality sleep, it's going to start from how you started your day. So what is it about starting your day? It again goes back to the biochemistry of life in the traditional way.
Yeah, let's play it out, right?
Yeah.
So, I wake up, I grab my phone, I look at the emails, the messages, the basketball scores. Then I need 3 cups of coffee.
Okay.
Then I'll stare at my computer screen for 2 hours straight trying to do some work.
Right.
Then maybe I'll go for a run.
Okay.
And then do the rest of my day. That's how I start my day. What does that mean?
Let's just go through the emotions there, all right? When you look at your phone, what kind of emotions are you triggering? I mean, they could be different at different times. But I know you're a busy individual too. And many of us in Hong Kong are. What are some of the emotions that you're actually triggering?
Well, you're worried, fear of missing out. You think that what's happened since I've been asleep?
And then my follow-up question will be like, when you subject yourself to fear, what are you doing? You can give me the most dumbest answer. It doesn't matter. There's no right or wrong answer to this.
I don't know. Stressing myself out?
Okay. Stress. Absolutely, yes. Let's put some chemistry into that now. What you're actually doing is, when you're in a state of stress is good. And when there is stress, there is cortisol. Now, like I mentioned before, the beauty of life is to manage that cortisol right in the beginning, because you wake up with a very high cortisol. But as a living individual that wants to better life, to go out there and live their life and make it the most productive day, you have to re-engineer your actions to bring that cortisol back to your baseline, because that is way too high when you wake up. Your cortisol levels are the highest when you wake up. And so it's out there, right? You said, you look at your phone, fear of missing out. What does it do to the cortisol levels?
Raises them.
Raises it even more. What is the next thing that you mentioned?
Drink loads of coffee.
Google this, okay? You don't need to be a an expert. Just Google this, all right? It's as dumb as this. Information's out there. What does coffee do to you?
Makes you more alert, peps you up.
Lovely. That's a good bit of cortisol, because now what cortisol has done is like when you have coffee the right times, what cortisol does is like it gives you that spike, which is good, a comfort level. But when your cortisol is so high, and then you looked at your phone and you've elevated your cortisol even more, and you've elevated your cortisol even more by now having coffee, wow, you are basically subjecting yourself to such a high level of cortisol that is unhealthy. That is like a fire that will wear you out even before you've just woken up and set goals. So my simple approach it's funny, right? We were talking about sleep. Why am I talking about waking up?
It's the other end of the day. So many things can happen until you go to sleep. This is the part I don't get. It's that why does it matter when it's so far away? You have all the rest of the day to fix it, don't you?
Because when you talk about, and I'm sure people have heard about this, circadian rhythm, right? There is awakeness and there is a sleep state that your body goes into. In order to ensure that the sleep state, and I think the reason why you need to focus on that sleep state is because you're awake for most of your times in the day. Most of us are. So if you need to make that productive, the only time your body gets it is by ensuring that you get sleep, because it's, again, restorative, regenerative, and brings in a plethora of benefits, which we talk about a little later. But again, why are we talking about the day? Because that is where you, by managing cortisol, what you're doing is you're setting up your circadian rhythm. And if your problem is sleeping, or if many of us, even if it was for me, right? And to ensure quality of sleep and sleep hygiene has to be respected, but it starts from what you do first. So in short, bringing it all back, how can you, from a heightened state, which is just, that's when you wake up, that's when your eyes go up. I mean, when your eyes open up, when your cortisol levels are high, and it's the highest that you want it to be, then our objective in the day is to ensure that it drops back right in the beginning, so that then you can have smaller spikes.
I see.
And the smaller spikes are got by the run. Amazing. You're stressing yourself.
Brings it down?
Yeah. It actually elevates it. And then, because when you run, you're actually stressing yourself. There's a lot of fear. There's emotions involved. There's breathing involved.
But then afterwards you feel
Yes, that's the beauty of it. So then it helps you to bring back to baseline. And sometimes when you engage yourself in exercise and movement, your baseline gets shifted even more lower.
Okay.
Which is better, because when it spikes up again, it's not too much. It is all about just knowing what other things that triggers your cortisol levels in the morning and then just eliminating it. So what have I adopted in my life? In where I know that sleep is an area that is a game changer, but at the same time, I don't fight the battle because of all the information that is out there, but I just embrace it by saying, when it's possible, I will do what it takes. And if I do that, it's life well lived. I will not go to challenge the areas that I can't, because, hey, that's the way of life for me at this stage of my life. So I don't sleep with my phone in the room for the very good reasons that it is normal human tendency when you get up with the high levels of cortisol to go out there and maybe demand for more cortisol. So don't wake up. Instead, good ways to actually bring down your cortisol levels is just to stand up and just say thank you for the opportunity of just waking up today. People can call it gratitude practice, gratitude word. Kiss your partner who's sleeping next to you. If there is nobody sleeping next to you, it's absolutely okay. But the fact that you've woken up is a matter of happiness to celebrate, because that is an opportunity for you to go out there and do something. It doesn't matter what the challenges are. If you are woken up, that is an opportunity. Just be grateful for it. Next thing is to ensure that you, in order to reset the circadian rhythm, with an objective to sleep better, you need to ensure that you have sunlight that actually penetrates your eyes. Not switching on the lights, sunlight.
Natural light.
Natural light. Now, this can be challenging at times because you could be in a hotel with the window doesn't open. I'm just looking at my lifestyles. I could be in the other part of the world where, it's dark. You could be in Hong Kong where you don't have a balcony, you don't have access. The only thing that faces you is another building. Lighting up your room helps. Opening up the curtains to your room helps. If you can, when the time is right, going out for a walk in the morning. This is the beauty of having pets in Hong Kong, because they need their walk. And then that's your meaning and purpose to go out there. And by default, you get that walk in, a little bit of movement. And also you bring in light, which kind of resets your circadian rhythm. But the objective was it's an added benefit that you get if you're not having a pet. But I'm not saying that everybody needs to have a pet. But if you know, and these are very few things that I mentioned, go out there and Google things about just understanding how can you lower your cortisol levels in the morning. Try to stay away from the supplementation, because supplementation helps, but that's not the first thing that you want to use. If anything, with the objective of supplementation and sleep, I would take it more towards the later part of the day so that it can help me unwire, because some of us are so wired up even in the nights. And it's the nature of the beast, and that's living. But that's when you bring in biohacks, such as supplementations, modalities such as meditation.
Supplementations as in taking supplements?
Yeah, taking supplements. And when I say supplements, it can be as simple as just herbs. Like, for example, ashwagandha is a great herb. Rhodiola is a great herb. Basil, using aromatherapy to relax. Bring that cortisol levels really low baseline so you can go and get some rest.
Like scented candle?
Yeah. These are all simple things that you can do. If nothing, go through a breathing exercise. And then be smart about things like, people say don't watch television and don't be on your laptop, etc. No, I would say that if you can't avoid it, don't fight it, don't stress over it. Instead, use tech to your favor. You got blue light blockers. You can invest in shades that actually block and provide enhanced. I think Dave Asprey's got a great product. It's called True Dark. It's an amazing product. I use it myself. And yeah, that allows me to work at night. I'm not saying that you should, but sometimes you have to. But you can use hacks. That's when you bring in hacks. But you don't start your morning with hacks. That's where people go wrong. Where you have natural way of living, which is historically done. Because let's go back. We are hunters and gatherers. What do you think a hunter or a gatherer in the old times would have done?
If by the sun?
Well, first thing he did, in the day.
Wake up and
just get out of his shelter and just experience sun, right? Yeah. There you go. And then make sure his family is all right. Yeah. Because you never knew hey, or make sure his community is okay, because that was an element of fear. But when he sees his community is okay and when he's experienced a little bit of sunlight and joy, he just says, I am so glad.
Right.
Isn't it? And that's how you can, now that was very primitive, but how can you make that more modern, more trendy? And, get up in the morning and say affirmations, or, you don't have to scream out saying, yeah, it's just about saying I am grateful for today. I've just woken up. All right. I am grateful for today. And in even saying that, there is proven science, which we can delve into much later on another episode, which even in saying that, you are actually releasing brain chemicals that are wiring you to, let's go out there and get it done. It might not be the best, but even if there are challenges out there, I am geared and wired to run this battle. And now that is triggering neurotransmitters and neurochemicals that can actually benefit your day versus cortisol, spiking up cortisol that can just wear you even before you started your day.
Yes, it makes a lot of sense.
And when you start approaching sleep from level of circadian rhythm and how you can actually set your circadian rhythm right from the time you wake up, and then complementing that with approaches more towards the end of the night, like make sure the temperature of the room is good, then it all starts to make sense. Because if you have woken up with a high level of cortisol and that just kept going up through the day, reading your emails, going into the office, missing out on that bus, getting late to work, and having those coffees, at some point of time, you will reach a state of burnout. And that burnout is a little bit of a harsh word. I would say you would reach a state of fatigue where even before you started your day, many of us feel it, right? It is a bad day.
And that's dangerous, because then you get into into the areas where you're like, oh, I need a drink, or I need a glass of wine, or I need a cigarette.
Yes. And so where do we go wrong?
So you stop it before it gets anywhere near that level.
Where did we go wrong? I always say that, you went wrong. And this is something that I've really been big on recently, more than diet and nutrition, is on the topic of sleep. But my topic of sleep is always about how I woke up. What are the things I did? So for me, in my simple lifestyle, I don't use any fancy gadgets because I think it's more a worry. And I'm not sponsored yet, so I believe in these things to sponsor me. So, there will be a time, but not yet, is by waking up in the morning, just saying I'm grateful for the day. Journal, write down things that I'm grateful for. This can happen a little bit later in the day, but not the first thing that I do. Go out there, have a nice, good glass of water. There's a reason why you should have a glass of water, because throughout the night, regeneration, repair, and restoration dehydrates you. You need to rehydrate. Rehydrate, why? Because hydration or water is an element, even more important. So when we talk about diet, nutrition, and hydration, these are three key elements. Hydration is without water, your cells will never be able to turn whatever food you put in there to energy. However good your gut in itself is also. So go out there, what I do is I drink, and I know why, and there's a reason why I do it. Because in today's life, if there isn't a reason, if you can't plug in a why, and that why is very solid and it's kind of like something that you experimented with and proven to yourself, you're not going to do it. Else you're still going to grab that coffee, which is something that I did for 10 years of my life, that sports high performance life, coffee, out in the gym. Today I go to the gym in the mornings at times when I can, or as I'm in a different part of the world where it's in the morning, I'd still go, but I don't use caffeine. I use herbs such as maca. It's a great herb that is an adaptogen. An adaptogen is basically adapts to the needs of your body. And that's the beauty of an adaptogen. So if your body is seeking energy, it will give you the energy. If your body is seeking a state of rest, it will give you relaxation. Basically what it does is it puts your cells in a comfort zone where it's, let's put it this way. If you were fluid, right? If something's coming your way, you can maybe stop it, right? Instead, if you're stiff, you're already like, shit.
Yeah.
If something's going to come, you're going to get hit, buddy. And it's going to be maybe bad, depending on the size of what's coming. So it's as simple as that. Adaptogen just helps you stay fluid. It just relaxes you. It eases you. It sets your cells into a state where either it can be an energy production state, or it can actually just put it to rest.
Fantastic hacks there. Really useful stuff. I'm very grateful to hear that from you. And just to get some insight into what your daily routine is like, right? One thing that you keep mentioning is the idea of states. It seems like to you, everything is a state. Nothing is constant. Nothing is permanent. You're rewiring people's brains to say, I'm in a state right now. It's just a symptom. This is not who I am. But some things have to be permanent. Some things have to be real. There must be some challenges which stay with people. I want to ask you about that, the concept of states versus perhaps predispositions or things that happened early in life. What's the difference and what stays with people?
That would really take me back to the book of science, which I don't want to open up at this maybe in this podcast, if I can say, because there's so much that we can delve into. But let's put it this way. Why do I, first, answering your question, states and predispositions. We always come into this world with some predispositions based on our genetic buildup that comes from our parents. And also, as we live our lives, you encounter trauma that affects and has big impacts, or life-changing or life-threatening disease states that needs to be managed as you live. Now, these are these are predispositions, or this is something that you always, if you don't take care of your life, when I say, what I kind of say is like a gut healthy lifestyle, but I would say like if you don't have a lifestyle plan, which in the book of modern medicine or functional medicine has 5 components: sleep, diet, nutrition, hydration, rest, and relaxation. Different to sleep, if you look at it, exercise and movement, and ensuring and engaging in relationships, both with the nature and also with yourselves and the community around you, as being the fundamental areas of work in order to ensure that your body, be it your mental health, your emotional well-being, your hormone health, your gut health, your detoxification pathways, your skeletal health, and your ability to absorb all this nutrition that you put in, for it to be effective, so that you do not fall back on this or fall prey to this states or fall prey to these predispositions, is worth living for. And one of the reasons why I always look at disease, unless it's a chronic diseases are managed, but can be managed, I would say, if you choose to, and disease states or symptoms. And one of the reasons why I call this as states of living or being is because they can be managed very well and even reversed. I would say not managed. Don't work to manage this, because you need to reverse it. Because the next step, by ignoring symptoms, by ignoring disease states, is chronic diseases, which is a spectrum that you don't want to enter because life, energy will all be spent on living to manage it. You would have no residue left to go out there and live your dream. So that's a coffin corner. That's an aviation term, but that is a corner that you don't want to be in. Mm. And the beauty about it is, like, even if you get there, it can be managed. And just look at all the success stories of people who have managed it. Even if you're not in those situations, just be inspired, because there are people who've used basically everything that I mentioned, the 5 fundamental pillars, to reverse it. They've used lifestyle hacks to reverse it. So now the beauty about this is, like, if we as common man use these modalities in our daily lives, we cannot, hey, there will be a time when life is stressful, but that still leaves you with 4 quadrants to work with. Wow, you only lost 1, but you have 4 quadrants. Let's say it's a stressful life, you're not able to get sleep. Wow, you're still left with 3 quadrants. Get your exercise and movement in. Focus on diet and nutrition and hydration. Get some relaxations or use techniques such as breathwork, meditation, journaling, walks, exercise as modalities that you can actually relax a bit. In spite of these areas not being addressed, you're still winning life. Even if it goes down to 3, let's say, you're not able, you're in a position where you can't even rest and relax, you still got 2. The day we stop doing this, and many of us do this, we don't focus on our sleep, we don't focus on our diet, and one is a byproduct of the other, we fall into these disease states or symptom showcase. Then our conventional way of doing things is we go and get a pill off the counter, which suppresses the symptoms. It's good. This is simple. Let's go back to the movies, the Arnie movies, right? It's like a ticking time bomb. In these movies, right, you send in the bomb squad, they cut a cable, the timer might stop for some time. But hey, party's on, it will start ticking again. That's exactly what this is all about. The day we start living our lives when we're okay, or in those states, or, symptom showcase every day, but being open to that and realizing, okay, there is something that I'm doing that is not right. What is it? And looking at the 5 pillars and saying, okay, which is that area that I am really falling short? And maybe, trying to do one action plan to better one area with a bigger, higher purpose and calling. Life is good. And it just makes you a superhuman. As the key ingredient, I would say, to making you a superhuman.
Nobin, you are a co-founder of of Nourish and Go, which is a AI-driven concept for healthy food vending machines. Can you tell us more about it?
Yeah, it's actually work in progress, and we've actually had a few installations, and it's been one of my pet projects recently. And this goes back to what I say, like, creative space is something that I always encourage people to be in, because that is a great source of dopamine and a lot of neurotransmitters and neuromodulators that can actually benefit people. So I am an addict to this. So this has been one of my latest creations with, of course, Marilyn, who is another co-founder of this project, an amazing lady. So what is it about? Why? Again, let's go to the why. I believe in gut health, and I think that is an area that is second to only cancer, where money has been put in for research and studying with an objective to be able to reverse chronic disease states and also help people to live superhuman lives. And hence the money goes in. And one of the, as I mentioned in the podcast earlier on, or as I mentioned in the podcast, one of the key drivers to having a better gut health is food. And food is your source of microbes, which reside in your real estate and create the chemistry of life. And also food for those microbes, which help them to stick around, else it's just going to go away. And then that real estate gets taken over by the bad guys. So food is key. And as we talked about, fuel is energy. Forget everything. Good food, good energy. Good energy, less smoke from that, engine. Lesser smoke, lesser crap to manage. Else, you got to stop somewhere by that road and take a break, because it's going to be too smoky. And that is, call it disease symptoms. And if you ignore it for too long and if you keep deciding to go on that road, yeah, you find yourself in really tight corners from where there is help and you can get out. But it takes a lot of energy again. Why waste it when you can actually use it to thrive? So this project is about combining technology, which we're also fascinated by, bringing in the element of health and well-being and energy as food. So all we look at this project is like, in every street corner, Not maybe in Hong Kong, but like, let's go back to the States, or let's go to those, areas where people drive a lot. There's going to be a fuel station. We look at these vending machines as real fuel, good fuel stations for humans, which we think are the carriers of dreams and inspirations to go out there and do their job, whatever the dream is, even just to have a good day. So everything in the fridge, less than $100. And that's what we're looking at, because we believe that health is pricey, but by bringing in technology, we're able to dial down and offer this fuel at a much better price. And it's a fun integrated project where, we stock in fresh fruit daily, and it's accessible to people from an interaction, which is kind of mindful too. Even when the way we designed this whole project with the machine it is kind of like, 2 seconds of wow, and how this whole process of, ordering to delivering and also a little bit of flexing to actually get the meal is all a part that has been so thought about and engineered in this project. And we are super excited about it. And we think this will be the future of bringing into Hong Kong health at a much affordable price tag and in a more trendy way, and serving as fuel to everybody out there. And we're going to create some fun products. It's just not going to be salads. There's going to be wraps. There's going to be rolls. There's going to be desserts in there. There's going to be, some smart cheat meals. And it's just going to be fun. A vending machine. We call it the healthiest fridge in town. So go for it.
I'd like to ask you about a topic which is close to my heart, which is, as an entrepreneur, you could manage your cortisol, you could manage your sleep, but there's always something that can go wrong. On a day-to-day basis, there are always things that can trigger you, that can stress you. In the moment, it's difficult to remain composed. And yet, you're somebody who masters that. Do you have any tips or hacks for people about how to remain composed, calm, measured, perhaps manage anger in the moment?
Good question. There is science to it. But I'm just going to talk about ways or things that I have incorporated in my busy lifestyle, which helps me to stay a little composed and still keep going. And it just goes back to of course, using some of these tools. I know if I'm well rested, I can take on the world. And there is no better, harder worker than me on the planet. That's a mindset. Of course, there are people who work harder than me. They inspire me. Come on. But I'm not falling prey to that. I put myself right there. So it's kind of a mindset that, I sleep well, I can take on the world. And that's one of the reasons why I even try to sleep well. When you are in that mind state, fear is an element that you can use to do something better. Because something that I talked about in the podcast, if you waking up with a challenge, and as a business entrepreneur, everybody does, and I kid you not, it has not been easy, right? It has been tough as fuck, right? But I just use basically these lifestyle tools that I mentioned to build resilience. What is resilience? It's the surplus capacity that you can have so that you can take on these challenges.
Right.
And always remembering the fact that you are at a place where someone has been in the past. You are not reinventing the wheel here. How can you derive energy? Sometimes, your body your mind fails to get that energy. That's when you start looking outside. You beautifully said it. Being superhuman is surrounding yourselves with the right people and always staying in touch with people through so many different modalities these days, like your podcast example, that you can when your body and your mind is just not giving in, then motivation, you would have heard something and that comes back. But it also goes back with, like the memory, sleep, what you ate. Exactly. So it is a tough life out there. It is war out there. And life is about using and knowing that it is going to come your way. I think acceptance is the biggest thing. Acceptance that I accept that my day is going to be challenging. And every time it gets challenging, there are days that I run away, to be honest. But I run away with an intention so that I can get a little bit of inspiration. I can build that resilience. So when I run away, what I do is I rest. I say, you know what? It's not the end of the world. What I got to do is in order to battle this out, I need to recharge. So I go and rest. Daring, isn't it?
But you can't, as an entrepreneur, you can't run. You have to be on deck. You have to have your hand on the tiller, surely.
Yes, there are situations that demand it. And at that time, let's say it's sometimes like, I said, it's the luck of the draw. But what normally pulls me out of the situation is the resilience that I've kind of built in with a mindset. And then mindset that I have created within me, which I feel kind of blessed to by learning. This is where I think quality education, and today quality education is out there. There are some really movers and shifters out there talking good music, not noise, music. Start listening to that music, because that's when you start dancing to the tune of life. And you know that there is nothing, if you have woken up that day, I believe in God. So I always say this. If you have woken up that day, that is God trying to get you to be a better person by throwing some challenges. You do not grow unless you stress yourself. It's just like bodybuilding. How do you grow muscle? You got to go and stress it. You might not like it. You might not want it. You might not need it. But the only way to growth is stress. And every time you go in there and do the things that you don't want to do and put yourself through that pain, you are actually increasing blood flow. You're actually tearing muscle fibers in order to grow. And put this logic to anything, as stupid as it sounds, the only way to grow is stress. Be it stress to a certain limit and control stress, right? So I look at it as, this is my opportunity to grow. I could run away from some situation. I would not say run away. I sometimes just say, you know what? It's not the end of the world. And just by saying that, what I do is like, I'm resetting my cortisol levels, because then all my cortisol levels like, shit, what's this guy on about? Okay, he's cool. I'll drop it down. But what's happening there? I'm building resilience. I am actually engineering my way to resilience. And then I say, you know what? I'm going to go for a run. Wow. Spike. And then it completely comes down.
Amazing.
And then you're on the deck, even if it's half an hour late. You are with the bandwidth to take on the world. And as an entrepreneur, that world involves a lot of lives and a lot of families. And that is a big responsibility. The only way you can ever do right, justice to it, is if you show up 100% or a 99% or an 80%, but at a much better state, mindset, heart set, soul set than everybody else out there. And that's what makes you an effective leader. If you have a dream, you are a leader. What makes you a good leader, which is worth living for, is education, learning to manage emotions and anger. It's normal. It is okay to feel angry. But sitting back sometime in the corner and saying, like, what is the benefits I've ever reaped from being angry? We just going back to your topic on anger, which I kind of missed out. Or what is the benefits? Okay, we watch movies. We're always on Netflix. Fuck this shit, all right? Think about an angry guy in the movie. What benefits? Yeah, he normally dies. I mean, this is the movie, but okay. But what I'm trying to say is, like,
steady.
Yeah, exactly. Of course, the heroes are angry too, but heroes are the ones, superheroes are the ones who are able to manage that and channel the anger to be creative. Even going into war, how they win wars is creative. They have to think out of the box. And what kind of builds them is, saying, you know what, taking their breath and saying, I got to put in some work. And that a lot of people have to stop thinking about it as running away. Don't think about entrepreneurship as a responsibility that you must show up. Entrepreneurship is a responsibility where you show up. Or modern entrepreneurship should be an opportunity that you show up as your 100% or your best you can be on that day. And that's sometimes just saying, you know what, it's not the end of the world. This is what happens around the world. Businesses go through this. I need to go through this. Every fucking successful business out there has gone through this, and that is what has made them sustainable. I'm not saying that I'm the best, and I'm not saying that I created this, but I'm just inspired by everybody out there, and this is how I channel my emotions. When I get up on the phone and say, and there are moments like where I have to just go fuck. But even saying those words, what are you doing? Then I ask myself, what did I just do? Okay, let's bring it back. Hey, it's all right. I don't care. It is an opportunity for growth. Once I put in some solutions to this, it might not happen again. Even if it does, I will get better at it. But at this moment, let me go for a 30-minute run. But if the place is on fire, that's a different story, okay? Go out there and get the job done. That's a different story, and that is life. And again, that you can show up better to a fire if you've used fuel, if you use the right fuel. Sleep is fuel. Hydration is fuel. Exercise and movement is fuel. This is rocket fuel, mate. This is what can propel you outside this normal realm of, the planet. So go out there, live life, have a purpose and meaning, and then listen to the music that's out there.
Immaculately put. Listen to the music, dance to the music. I love the way you said it. And on that note, DJ, cue the music. Nobin, this has been one of the seminal interviews that I've had the pleasure of hosting. What an inspiration to hear your advice, your hacks, and I hope that the viewers and listeners can take as much as I have taken from this interview. It was an absolute pleasure. Thank you for coming on. And I'm sure we look forward to the next episode where you'll be back in my seat for sure.
All right. I'm looking forward to being on the driver's seat again. Thanks, Chris. It was a pleasure. Thank you.